decision time. We have to waterproof this thing in some way, but you've got options in waterproofing. My last witch orb, I grabbed some good old urethane, took a paintbrush, and painstakingly went over it, every little nook, every little crack, and waited for it to dry, flipped it over, every little flipped it over, did the inside, and it takes forever, but you do get a good everywhere soaked in waterproofing from it. The other option you've got is a spray product, and this is what I'm going to be trying on this particular one. This is called Plastic Coat. It has every warning on it except, do not operate and use near humans. So I'm going outside to use this stuff. It's like literally, look at all those. I mean, God. So yeah, make sure that you waterproof your project with whatever product you choose. And once you get that done, then we get on to the fun stuff. Witch orb is entirely waterproofed at this time. I used the spray waterproofer. I'll be honest, I didn't like the one I used. I'm probably going to go back to just painting urethane on. It takes longer. It's a more arduous process. It takes longer to dry as well. But I thought with the urethane painted on, I got a better coat everywhere that I wanted it to get. And I was more happy with the seal. But this is still waterproofed enough that if it starts raining on Halloween night, I am pretty sure that I got plenty of time to grab this and get it inside. And I can always go back over it later, after undoing everything I'm about to show you. So, what we need to do now is get our filling inside in order to diffract and diffuse all the light from our light source. The filling, in accordance to our stuff that everybody can get that is pretty cheap, is going to be polyfill. This is the stuff that teddy bears are full of, and many pillows and other fun stuff is full of. It's just cheap polyester fluffy filling that you can get at virtually any craft store on the super cheap. Hello, cat. When I fill these things up, what I like to do is I like to just pull the polyfoam apart to make it as least dense as I possibly can, and then stuff that piece in. It is handy while doing this to have something to stuff the polyfoam or polyfill down, because you're going to find there are times it doesn't like to fill in evenly and you need to push it in from the sides, and you are just going to fill the orb up. It will try to spill out the sides a little bit, but for the most part all the filaments and the side boundaries here, these branches, will keep it contained. So again, the procedure is just grab a handful and kind of tease it out to make it as little density as possible. That's not even a phrase actually, but well, it suits the instruction. Thin it out, thin it out, thin it out, and then stuff that thinned out piece in. You're going to stuff it in until this stuff is almost at the very tip top, and then we will toss in our light source. As you go through and do this, you may find that there are spots that the polyfill simply does not want to go into. One of two methods is called for. Either you reach in with your fingertips or a pair of needle nose pliers or some such device, grab the polyfill and pull it towards the spots that it doesn't want to go into, or grab a piece of polyfill, shove it in from the sides, and stuff it into unoccupied areas. You really do want this stuff to take up as much of the internals as possible. Another method that keeps it going where it's got to go is you can pull a bit out and then hook it into the filaments, and that will kind of help it stay where it's supposed to be and stop it from retreating back inside the orb. Once your orb is reasonably full of polyfill, it's time to add your light source. Of course, you need something to stop your light source from falling right back out the bottom of the orb. What I like to do is grab a good old milk jug. This one has seen some service already, but cut a big old circle out of milk jug plastic. One that is far too big for that hole. I'm going to give this a little bit more rounding here. Toss your light source in. Then you have the joyful task of trying to get the plastic plate in behind it. One of the easier ways to do that is to simply cut a line right up on through to the center. This will give you a little bit of conical fold over, which sometimes helps and is sometimes still something of a misery to get in. You can also use it as a bit of a feed point. But come heck or high water, if you do it right, once it's in there, your light source will sit on the plastic piece. I don't worry too much about anchoring the plastic piece because I haven't had any of these things swinging so hard that they have come off yet. Doubtless my opinion on that may change with time. And you can make small adjustments just by reaching your finger in, sliding things around as you like. But at this point, you should have a functional witch orb. Alexa, turn off craft light. And there we go. If you find there are any areas where you can still see the light through there, you can readjust your polyfill to cover it more completely. You can stuff a little bit more polyfill in to cover up that light. If you find there are any spots that are too thick and you find that they're just completely occluding the light, you can pull some polyfill out, no problem. But this, in general, is the Witch Orb project. And this thing is, for all intents and purposes, apart from stringing it up, done. There are, however, a few more optional things that you can do, which we'll go over here in just a moment. And of course, the other glorious thing is if you use these lights for multiple projects, well, then you'll find that just about everything is operating off of a single set of remotes for your haunt. And it all starts going. You can control everything. With the bulk of the orb done, it's time to talk about hanging and accessories. The main accessory you can put on these things are dangly bits. And there's no limit to the amount of fun little dangly bits you could put on. If you want to put on dangly little bone charms, go for it. This is some creepy cloth, which most veteran haunters are aware of. It appears right around the Halloween season, and is that ooky cloth that you can put on tablecloths over lights and over everything to make it look glugh. It is dirt cheap. But a couple tiny pieces of this, suspended from a few of the choice protrusions, can give you a little bit of hanging creepification. And all I'm doing is just opening up a spot in it, sliding the creepy cloth over, If you wanted to, you could certainly add a drop of hot glue to hold it in place. And now when this is suspended, it will have a couple added bits. You could drape some mossy effects from it. All sorts of stuff could enhance your witch orb to that one step beyond what it normally is. But then your final step is hanging it. And I'm not going to tell you how to hang a witch orb. I'm just going to tell you how I hang a witch orb. Because quite frankly, you guys could have put any number of loops in your own witch orbs. Again, I use 3. You could put it as few as 1 and just simply hung it. I take a couple pieces of brown yarn that vaguely match the color. I feed 2 pieces into each loop. I string them out in a group of 4, and then I pretend that I know how to braid, which I don't. And I intentionally do it badly, with no pattern whatsoever. What I get in the end is something that gives me something that looks like a piece of twisted vine, because there is absolutely no pattern to the braid. I am just going to do this until I reach more or less the end. In the end, I have a horrendously badly braided section of yarn here, which is just twisted up to vaguely match the wood of the Wytchwood. It can't completely match it because, well, it's just yarn. Then at the end, I just tie a knot to keep this together. I'll repeat this process 2 more times so all 3 of my sections have their vaguely viney woody twists. Once you have your 3 strands all set and good to go, go ahead and give your witch orb a lift, and then decide if it is as level as you want it to be. This one, surprisingly, lifted up quite level, but if I wanted it to angle up more on one side, I'd have to pull up on that particular strand a little bit and just grab it at the top that way. Then once I had everything the way I wanted, have all 3 strands at the top set and good, and I am just going to tie them into a single knot. All together. And I can hook right on that. I can cut off this top knot if I want, or leave it, however the case may be. But now the witch orb is ready to suspend. And it is done. Thanks very much for enjoying the project with me, and I hope your orbs turn out as spooky as you want to make them.